Football is called the ultimate team sport, but for many NFL players, it's more than just a game. It's survival. It's a way out of poverty. And today, we're diving into some of the most powerful rags-to-riches stories in NFL history. From sleeping on friends' couches to signing multi-million-dollar contracts, from wondering where their next meal would come from to buying houses for their moms. These players didn't just play the game. They used it to rewrite their destiny. In this video, we're going to profile players like Antonio Brown, DeSean Jackson, and Dez Bryant, men who rose from extreme poverty to NFL stardom. And along the way, we'll ask the big question, how much does where you come from shape where you end up? So grab a seat, because this isn't just about football. It's about life, struggle, and the pursuit of something bigger. Antonio Brown, from Section 8 housing to NFL stardom. Host. Let's start with Antonio Brown. And yes, I know, the name Antonio Brown sparks a lot of emotions. Some people see him as one of the most talented wide receivers to ever play the game, while others remember the controversies, the headlines, the meltdowns. But before all of that, Antonio Brown was just a kid trying to survive. Antonio was born in Miami, Florida, and his story is not just about poverty. It's about instability. His father, Touchdown Eddie Brown, was a legendary Arena Football League player. But despite the football bloodline, Antonio's home life was chaotic. At just 16 years old, Antonio was kicked out of his home by his stepfather. He literally had nowhere to go. Imagine being a teenager, still in high school, and suddenly finding yourself homeless. Antonio spent months couch hopping at friends' houses, sometimes sleeping in cars, sometimes sneaking into motels just to have a roof over his head. And here's the thing, most people would have given up, but Antonio didn't. He played quarterback at Miami Norland High School, and his athleticism was undeniable. Still, with no stable home, no money, and no support system, recruiters didn't know what to make of him. He took the long road, attending North Carolina Tech Prep to prove himself, then earning a scholarship at Central Michigan. And from there, he transformed himself into an NFL draft pick, later becoming a 6-time Pro Bowler and even winning a Super Bowl with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Now, here's the thought-provoking part. What does hardship do to a person's mentality? Antonio Brown's hunger, that drive to succeed against all odds, clearly pushed him to greatness. But some argue that the very same instability he faced growing up carried over into the struggles he's had later in his NFL career. What do you think? Does the trauma of growing up in poverty ever truly go away? Or does it follow you even after you've made it? Next up, let's talk about DeSean Jackson, the electrifying receiver and return specialist known for his blazing speed. DeSean grew up in the Crenshaw neighborhood of Los Angeles. And if you know anything about Crenshaw, you know it's a community with rich culture, but also filled with challenges: gang violence, crime, poverty. His father, Bill Jackson, was his rock. Bill worked multiple jobs to keep DeSean on track, driving him to practices, staying up late to help him train, and keeping him focused when so many others in the neighborhood got caught up in the streets. Here's a little-known fact. When DeSean was in high school, he actually worked as a ball boy for the LA Raiders, thanks to his father's connections. Imagine being a teenager, running around on an NFL sideline, watching legends up close, dreaming that one day you'd be out there. That was DeSean's reality. But life wasn't easy. His family faced financial struggles, and his father sacrificed everything to give DeSean opportunities. Tragically, Bill Jackson passed away from pancreatic cancer in 2009, just as DeSean's NFL career was beginning. DeSean has said that everything he's achieved since then has been for his father. On the field, he became known as one of the greatest deep threats of all time, racking up over 10,000 career receiving yards. But off the field, his story is a reminder of how important mentors and father figures can be. Here's a question for you. Do you think athletes with strong family support have a better chance of succeeding than those who don't? Or is it all about personal drive? Let me know what you think. And then there's Dez Bryant. His story might be the most heartbreaking of them all. Dez was born in Galveston County, Texas, to a 15-year-old mother. His father wasn't around. His mom, Angela, battled substance abuse issues, and at times, Dez had to fend for himself. By the time he was in high school, Dez was bouncing between foster homes, friends' couches, and government shelters. Can you imagine going to football practice after sleeping on the floor of a shelter the night before? That was Dez Bryant's reality. But despite everything, he was a freak athlete. At Lufkin High School, he became one of the top recruits in the country, earning a scholarship to Oklahoma State. And when he got to the NFL, drafted in the first round by the Dallas Cowboys, he didn't just play, he dominated. 3 Pro Bowls, over 7,000 career receiving yards, and some of the most jaw-dropping catches you'll ever see. Here's an interesting anecdote. When Dez first got to the NFL, he famously wasn't allowed to wear the number 88 jersey because that number in Dallas is reserved for legends. Michael Irvin wore it, Drew Pearson wore it, and eventually, Dez earned the right to wear it too. That moment wasn't just about football, it was symbolic. A kid who had nothing, who came from one of the toughest upbringings you can imagine, now wearing the jersey of Cowboys royalty. But Dez's story also raises another question. How do players who grew up with nothing handle sudden wealth? Dez has admitted that he struggled early on with money management, even facing lawsuits over unpaid debts. But over time, he matured, invested wisely, and built a life for himself and his family. And that brings us to one of the central themes of this video. Making it out of poverty is one thing, staying out is another. So when you put these stories together, Antonio Brown, DeSean Jackson, Dez Bryant, you start to see a bigger pattern. Football is more than just a sport in America. For a lot of kids growing up in poverty, it's one of the only visible paths to wealth. The NFL has produced countless stories like these, players who turned nothing into something. But for every Antonio Brown or Dez Bryant, there are thousands of kids who don't make it. That's the tough reality. The NFL dream is rare. And that makes the ones who do make it even more inspiring. But here's the kicker, pun intended, it also shows us that poverty doesn't define you. Circumstances don't have to be permanent. And while football gave these men the platform, it was their resilience, their grit, and their refusal to quit that truly changed their lives. So now I want to hear from you. Whose story inspired you the most? Was it Antonio Brown, overcoming homelessness? DeSean Jackson, carrying his father's legacy? Or Dez Bryant, going from shelters to superstardom? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and let's start a conversation. And hey, if you enjoyed this deep dive, hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications because we've got more stories of resilience, struggle, and triumph coming your way. At the end of the day, football is just a game. But for some, it's the difference between being broke and becoming a millionaire.